The nucleus of Ruthless Records, and indeed N.W.A., was Eazy-E and Dr. Dre. For Eazy, he was looking for the first musical brick to use to build his business, and his attention was drawn to a fellow Comptonite who DJ'd as part of the world-class Wrecking Crew collective. For Dre, he was looking for a new benefactor to assist with his new musical direction, since working with Alonzo Williams, the founder and leader of the collective to which he belonged, was no longer cutting it. Also not cutting it was the Mazda RX-7 that Alonzo had bequeathed to Dre. Beat up, with the rear window missing, it was nevertheless fast and flashy enough for Dre to rack up a mountain of traffic violation tickets, and when he continued to neglect them, he got slapped with a warrant that sent him to jail. Eazy-E bailing him out instead of Alonzo, who invested his money in his regular BMW monthly payment instead, symbolized a shift in partnership and allegiance. Soon, Dre and Eazy were making records in the garage of the latter's parents' home, as well as performing around town as the high-powered crew. The duo was the embryo that would eventually be birthed as Ruthless Records in 1987. So it's easy to see why Dr. Dre saw himself as a co-founder of Eazy-E's record label. Plus, he is responsible for directly or indirectly bringing in 3 members of what will become known as the seminal gangsta rap group N.W.A. DJ Yella, his world-class Wrecking Crew comrade, Ice Cube, and Arabian Prince, Eazy recruited MC Ren. And this production work would help establish critical acclaim and reap dividends with the first several albums that Ruthless put out between 1988 and 1990. For his part, Eazy-E focused more on the business operations of the label, but when he brought in Jerry Heller to manage the company's affairs, the music industry veteran seemingly usurped Dre for that number 2 spot. That stung Dre, especially considering that he truly believed his financial compensation for all his work was not adding up. Similar to Arabian Prince in 1988 and Ice Cube in 1989, Dre in 1991 wanted out. And so began a long, protracted, year-long process, concluded with Dre taking off with his new partner, Suge Knight, to build Death Row Records. But Dre's departure came at a cost. A 6-year compensation arrangement that included 10% of his production proceeds and 15% from sales of his albums. Even as Death Row took off with a bang when he released The Chronic in December 1992, the very thought of some of the album's money going in Eazy's direction must have rankled Dre. Which is why it wasn't surprising that The Chronic included F with Dre Day and Everybody Celebrating, released as a single in May 1993, complete with a music video. Eric Wright was no longer Eazy-E. The former drug dealer and Crip affiliate graduated into a symbol of urban Black American success as the multi-millionaire founder of Ruthless Records. He was now Sleazy-E, a goofy blue plaid shirt-wearing person with a jerry curl that somehow survived into an era of fades and bald heads, and acting as an errand boy for an unidentified white guy at his own record label, now named Useless Records. Worse, MTV, no longer relegating hip-hop to just Yo MTV raps and Pop-Tarts like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice, now followed the tune of multi-platinum selling hardcore rap albums like The Chronic. And that's how millions of teenagers across the United States got to see, almost on an hourly basis, Eazy-E portrayed as a bumbling bum being referred to as Boy and sent to find some rappers for his own record label, chased into a van by gang members, and dancing on the side of the Pasadena freeway holding up a "We'll Rap for Food" cardboard sign. It literally wasn't a good look. The most merciless blow at the end of what seemed to be a 2-year-long public humiliation ritual and professional decline. It wasn't easy being Eazy. It didn't matter that he got his big break producing Diddy, a top 10 platinum certified hit from an Oakland-raised rapper named Paperboy. South Central Los Angeles native David Weldon, better known as Rhythm D, was broke and he needed some ends. He may have earned a co-producing credit on the same soundtrack that houses Dr. Dre and Snoop Doggy Dogg's Deep Cover, but a loose affiliation with Eazy-E's chief rival wasn't going to stop Rhythm from going to Eazy-E's home with a floppy disk of his beats. After hooking up the sound system to play his sonic showdown with another emerging South Central producer, DJ Battlecat, Eazy-E ran out of whatever shower he was having and offered Rhythm D a record contract right on the spot. Rhythm D would emerge as Eazy-E's secret sonic weapon for his retaliation against Dre, who burned bright with a disc that had peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was on its way to RIAA gold status. Coincidentally, Rhythm had found himself in a Chronic recording sessions during a failed attempt at getting a prominent production job at Death Row, so he presumably had lots of ammo, and Eazy-E already knew of Dre's past, a pre-Ruthless past that was far from, shall we say, gangsta. Eazy and Dre may have both hailed from Compton, but it was the former who specialized in street pharmacy during the drug-ravaged 80s, while the latter was spitting records wearing a flashy doctor's coat. In other words, it was Eazy-E who was a G, or at least close to it. Dre was not. Ironic for a guy who was now the current preeminent symbol of gangsta rap. But Eazy-E was never a gang member. He never did dirt, which is slang for engaging in gang-related criminal activity. Rather, he was affiliated with those who did, and gangster rappers in the 1990s needed that stamp of approval to better distinguish themselves from the so-called studio gangsters. Enter Arlandis Tremel Hinton and Andre Deshaun Wicker, better known as BG Knockout and Dresta, respectively. The pair of half-brothers were members of the Nutty Block Crips. Dresta had been jailed for a combined total of about 6 to 7 years for various offenses. Both men were aspiring rappers, and their breakthrough would come in the form of a depleted music industry boss in dire need of songwriting assistance and creative rejuvenation. Whatever Eazy-E had in store, it couldn't involve Temporary Insanity, which was planned as a sophomore album and had been in gestation since 1990. It was too grand of a project to tackle the immediate issue at hand, which involved a lot more than retaliation against a friend turned rival. Besides, 5150 Home for the Sick, which was supposed to be a promotional prelude for the album, had underperformed, lambasted by the press and eking out a gold plaque under the suffocating shadow of the Chronic. Eazy-E's reputation and credibility had been steadily pummeled since March 1991, when he decided to attend a Republican luncheon in Washington, D.C. Eazy aligning himself in any way with people that many considered unaligned ideologically and politically with his ethnic group and practitioners of his chosen art form labeled him as someone who was out of touch, or worse, a sellout, a damning word for any black person or rapper in the 90s. Another reason to call him a sellout? Rodney King. The 4 Los Angeles Police Department officers accused of savagely beating the motorist on March 3, 1991, were acquitted a year later of assault charges brought by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. 3 of them were also acquitted of using excessive force. But in February 1993, all 4 cops were headed to federal trial for violation of King's civil rights, at a time when many people believed them to be guilty and were enraged that they had been acquitted. Eazy-E dared to publicly support one of them, Theodore Briseño. Although he believed that what the cops did was wrong, he made an exception for Briseño, whom he believed somehow tried to stop the beating, based on the fallacy that a minority would automatically stick up for another minority. Briseño was Mexican-American, while the other 3 cops were classified as white, but perhaps ignored by or unbeknownst to Eazy, it's possible for Briseño to be both white and Latino. Eazy-E could claim that his group N.W.A's police predicted the type of turbulence that was the Los Angeles area riots, which followed the acquittal in April 1992. However, many in his ethnic group and musical culture were not even interested in painting him as a worthy contrarian, let alone a worthy prophet. In fact, some of his detractors, such as the Ghetto Boys alumnus Willie D., were very vocal about their opinions about him. Dre Day arrived a month after Eazy-E's support for Briseño became public. CB4, a satire on gangster rap that had opened at number 1 at the box office back in March, was still in theaters. Most of it spoofed N.W.A. via the titular rap group, formed by 3 black suburban kids who built their entire identity on the reputation of an imprisoned crime kingpin.
Do you glorify violence or advocate the use of guns as a way of solving civil disputes? Okay, final question. Do you guys respect anything at all?
Not a goddamn thing.
You got a deal.
Yeah.
Albert MC Gusto Brown, who stole the Kingpin's moniker, was CB4's leader and wore an exaggerated jerry curl, bearing an uncanny resemblance to you-know-who. Yeah, it was a movie styled as a mockumentary, kind of like This is Spinal Tap. Eazy-E even made a cameo in the movie, but some couldn't help but think that he had become the laughingstock of rapdom. In other words, the joke was on him. For a moment, BG Knockout could have joined Eazy-E's growing list of critics. Interpreting his support of Briseño as being anti-Rodney King, he wrote a song dissing his boss. Ironically, when Eazy-E discovered the diss, he found it amusing. He needed that firepower and passion for the record he was thinking of creating. Rhythm D was already working on the beat, one that shamelessly aped Dre's popular G-Funk strain, albeit with his own twist. It starts with the booming kicks and drum rim tapping snares, with a metal scraping on each 1 and 2 beat. Then it's the bottomless synth bass, complete with the G-Funk trademark wailing Moog synth. Only that this one twists and turns with the deadly intent of a cobra. And a whispered voice, that of Rhythm D, cuts menacingly throughout the song, which would become known as Real Motherfucking G's, or in radio edit format, Real Compton City G's. Real Compton City G's, released as a single on August 26, 1993, features BG Knockout and Dresta. It's as hard of a blow as Eazy could deliver to his former comrade, not only questioning his street credibility, but also his sexuality and gender, his business decisions, and even where he truly hails from. He even pills a cap or two on Snoop. The hook incorporates samples from the DLC's It's Funky Enough and Eazy-E's very own Eazy Does It, rubbing salt in the open wounds of a person who had to leave his output for his adversary to profit from and use them as heavy artillery against him. And that leads to noting that the most brutal blow in a brutally condensed first verse is an exchange between Eazy and Dresta, highlighting the former's business acumen and reminding Dre of the cost of leaving Ruthless.
Damn, E, they tried to fade you on Dre Day, but Dre Day only meant Eazy's payday.
Rap diss battles are replete with intentionally damaging moves and images. During the 2001 Summer Jam, Jay-Z revealed prodigy of hardcore hip-hop duo Mobb Deep dressed in leotards and a sparkling jacket across 4 screens. Pusha T publicized a biracial Drake raised by a white Jewish mother in blackface. But long before social media and the internet, Eazy-E included a photo of a teenage Dr. Dre in the artwork of the EP Where Real Compton City G's Ended Up. Dre wears a sequined coat and stethoscope, an enduring shot of his world-class wrecking crew days. And the photo includes descriptions of Dre's image designed to damage his reputation with the words obituary hovering over it. Yup, Dre was a dead man. Figuratively. The pummeling carried over into the music video itself, where the same actor, comedian AJ Johnson, who had played the Sleazy-E character, is pursued by the real Eazy-E and his homeboys. Reportedly, Johnson had a gun pulled out on him by Suge Knight, enough to convince him to send colleague Arnez J in his place for the second and final day of shooting. Either way, the whole affair was an intended role reversal. The real G's exacting revenge on the fake gangsters. And oh yeah, there are more pictures of Dre in the sequined outfit. But by no means did Eazy-E stop there. As previously mentioned, BG Knockout and Dresta are brought along for the ride. According to Dresta, who's credited with creating the song structure and concept, Dre was nothing but an actor from suburbia who never broke a law in his life and mastered the ways and mannerisms of Compton gang members. In other words, leave the tough talk to the ones who really lived a life. Dresta's sordid past becomes a solid reference point.
See, I did dirt, put in work, and many didn't vouch that. So since I got stripes, I got the right to rap about that.
Sure, BG Knockout questioning Snoop's credentials is iffy, since the lanky kid from Long Beach was actually a Crip affiliate. Some would even claim he was a roll-in 20s Crip. And questioning Dre being actually from Compton is a case of splitting hairs, since he alternated between there and South Central in his youth due to his mother's multiple remarriages. But in a diss battle, embellishments are allowed. Eazy-E, even as he was reportedly receiving death threats, had the admirable temerity to deconstruct Dre's facade. Real Compton City G's became the centerpiece of an entire EP that Eazy-E released on October 6, 1993. It's on Dr. Dre 187UM KILLA. The title, as awkward as it looks and sounds, had a purpose. Dre's name, encased in parentheses, is crossed out as though to indicate the elimination of an adversary, and the phrase after it, 187, confirms that statement. 187 is shorthand for California Penal Code Section 187 that defines murder, and it was popularized by, coincidentally, songs such as Dr. Dre and Snoop Doggy Dogg's Deep Cover. The letters UM, or deepens the meaning of 187. They stand for untouchable murder. Its on-premise, unintentional or not, popularized questioning the accuracy of many a gangster rapper's tales. What's real and what isn't? Who's a G and who isn't? A project entitled Bangin' on Wax, which involved actual gang members from opposing parties, the Bloods and the Crips, was released 7 months before Eazy-E's EP, further questioning the blurred lines between street and studio. If 1989 was the year gangster rap went platinum, 1991 saw the subgenre's first album make it to #1, and 1992 saw gangster rap truly go mainstream, 1993 was shaping up to becoming the year of the real G's.
What would you like to say about Eazy?
Let me see. First of all, I want to start off with those studio gangsters out there.
No, wait. What's a I just want to define it for Middle America. A studio gangster.
It's somebody that's not real. They go in the studio and all of a sudden become hard when they used to do dance music.
Beware. This is a vastly improved and confident Eazy-E. A drastic reduction of punching in his rhymes. No more feeling lost without Cube or Dre. And no longer with Priority Records, the only distributor who had stepped up to assist Ruthless during those N.W.A. days. Apparently, they had tried to cut a deal with Dre behind Eazy's back, and he found out during a 1991 deposition, around the time Dre was attempting to leave Ruthless. Couple that with Priority going on to distribute records by Ice Cube and Dre, and it's easy to understand why Eazy no longer felt comfortable with the company. By 1993, the deal between Ruthless and Priority was done. Its On became the first one from his company distributed by Relativity Records, an entity that started with a rock music focus but eventually went into rap, signing artists such as a portly Bronx native by the name of Fat Joe. With a new trusted distributor in tow, coupled with a refreshed reservoir of songwriters and producers, Its On is a firmly boosted reply, kicked off by Extra Special Thanks, a Rhythm D produced oral menace of dueling synths upon the Impeach the President breakbeats that Eazy-E uses to fire his opening salvos. Other disses against Dre, Snoop, and Death Row Records in general are more sporadic throughout the EP, and a few of them are pretty amusing. The title track, Another Full Assault, includes a lampooning of Snoop's Dre Day lyrics. In Down to the Last Roach, the last track, which mirrors the Chronic's outro, The Roach, Eazy exposes Dre's hypocrisy of his Chronic-themed solo debut with a clip of a song he had done with N.W.A. less than 5 years earlier. Express Yourself.
I still express, yo, I don't smoke weed or cess.
As reinvigorated as he was, it was a turbulent time for Eazy. Down to the Last Roach is like a confession to his recent hobby of rolling it up, lighting it up, and smoking it. It was most likely a stress reliever. He and his Crip-affiliated Ruthless crew rolled with bodyguards to ensure they were not caught slipping by the Bloods-dominated Death Row camp. Before Death Row versus Bad Boy, it was Death Row versus Ruthless. But that wasn't going to stop Eazy-E from engaging in less frivolous activities. Give Me That Nut, laced with a hook that samples N.W.A.'s Find 'Em, F 'Em, and Flee, is one of his better entries in the dirty rap canon. Greatly boosted by beats that samples a British Easy listening piece once used as BBC 2 countdown music, Give Me That Nut is simple fun. Apart from that though, Eazy's most concerned about talking trash, victimizing people, and permanently stopping his enemies, as evidenced by Any Last Words and Still in addition to Real Compton City G's and It's On. Perhaps it's because he's purely reactionary to the battering of his image, but It's On finds Eazy-E exhibiting less of the general conviviality that his vulgar and hard-edged lyrics possessed in Eazy Does It. So it was beneficial for him to keep this affair short and focused at 37 minutes. Any longer, and it could have been a disaster of 5150 proportions. Easy's slack moments are greatly compensated by the production. The layers of elastic bass lines, whiny synthesizers, and thick wah-wah guitar licks are indicative of, yes, Dre's brand of G-Funk. Now, this might come off as hypocritical, but at its very core, it was the Ruthless camp claiming their piece of G-Funk history. That this type of West Coast sound was pioneered by a collective effort in the late 80s, rather than the sole effort of Dr. Dre that blossomed into the 90s. However, the Chronic put former colleagues such as Above the Law producer Cold 187 on the defensive against the common narrative. Making G-Funk beats for its own was not theft, or even tantamount to using blitzkrieg against Nazi German soldiers. Rather, it was Ruthless Records reclaiming part of their heritage. And the producers do give Dre a run for his money, having that aura of peril necessary to follow a sinking of teeth into flesh. The beats are generally awesome, ideal for rattling the trunk during a slow and hypnotizing ride on the streets in the '64 Chevy Impala. Even Boys in the Hood, that good old Eazy-E signature song from the mid-80s, gets a G-Funk remix. Other than an eerie flute-dominated detour that Yella makes with Still a Nigga, the music is full of blinding energy. It's On, which stomps with a gangsta sample in the chorus and the double tracking of Eazy's voice, has Rhythm D supply this lone synthesizer solo that goes on beautifully long after the lyrics are done. Cold 187 provides the piano-peppered funk bounce of Any Last Words, which makes the art of straightjacking delightfully darker than it should and was released as the second single. The absolute best beat, though, apart from real Compton City G's, may have to be that of Down to the Last Roach, an 8-minute jam of funky live instrumentation courtesy of Danish outfit Madness for Real. It's reminiscent of the Parliament Funkadelic days with a G-Funk twist. Indeed, Eazy, BG Knockout, and Dirty Red, a protege of Eazy's, credited with the song's concept, lampoon lyrics from the legendary funk bands Up for the Downstroke for the chorus. Considering that the Chronic was so commercially successful and tremendously influential, Eazy had to do more than just expose Dre's true background or send threats to him, Snoop, and Death Row. He had to make a record that was overall as good, if not better, than Dre's. He came close. It's On is a taut, powerful, and vibrant record that restored most of Eazy's vitality. It peaked at number 5 on the Billboard 200 and was double platinum within 4 months, becoming the most commercially successful multi-track record of Eazy's career. And Real Compton City G's would be his only entry in the Billboard Hot 100 in his lifetime, peaking at number 42, burnishing its reputation as one of hip-hop's classic disses. Dre Day might have been the bigger hit, but Real Compton City G's is the superior diss song.
You can say all you want to say. Basically, you could diss me all you want, but I'm going to get paid. Because that's why I say Dre Day is only Eazy's payday. And that's real.
Why don't y'all just make up?
It's On became the last multi-track project that Eazy released during his lifetime. For all his taunting with Dr. Dre's symbolic obituary, Eazy-E's actual obituary would occur only less than 2 years later, and in the aftermath of his unexpected demise, Ruthless Records was a shell of its former self by the end of the decade. But Death Row Records suffered the same fate. By then, Dr. Dre was long gone, eventually weary of the gangland atmosphere that engulfed his workplace and creative process. Dre's ordeal echoed certain bars within Eazy-E's scathing diss. In a sense, Dr. Dre confirmed what Eazy-E claimed. He wasn't G enough. But maybe Eazy-E should have thanked Dre for indirectly getting him to make his best post-N.W.A. record. Besides, It's On set the precedent for others to try longer, unconventional, or more complex formats to take down rivals. One can contend that Ja Rule's Blood in My Eye and Game's 300 Bars and Running are direct descendants, and if N.W.A. can be credited with igniting the art of the rap EP, Eazy-E in particular can be credited with perfecting it. No need for a G check here.
Yo, Dre. Boy, you should have known by now. Eazy-E.
Thanks for watching. For those new here, welcome to Rap Perspective. For the Rappleheads, I greatly appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, comment on, and share this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I encourage everyone to watch, like, comment, comment on, and share other videos on here. See you in the next video.